In Google Analytics 4, there are some things that are website specific and some things that are app specific. Enhanced measurement is a feature I want to discuss in this video, and that is very much website specific. This only works for web data streams. And what enhanced measurement is, it's a way of automatically collecting a bunch of events from a website without having to do any custom coding or implementation. Or at least that's the idea. There is a thing here where Google attempts to do a lot of automatic event collection. However, it might not necessarily work as advertised, or maybe it might not work on your website, or maybe it just might not work full stop. So that's what I want to discuss in this video, is just have a look at those enhanced measurement events. What are they? What are the things that we get, or at least should get, without having to do anything automatically? And then go through each one and talk about the customizations, and then what to do if they aren't there, or if you've turned them on but they're not working. So first of all, the way I'm accessing this is in the Google Analytics 4 admin screen. There's go into the data stream section and open up one of your web data streams. You'll be able to see a full list of the enhanced measurement events that you've enabled or disabled, or configurations that you might want to be able to do. I've also got open a list of all of the, at least at the time of recording, the enhanced measurement events. So this is a list that Google might expand over time. They have before, and they hopefully will in the future. So let's just start at the top and work our way down. So at the very top, they're talking about page views. And this incorporates the page_view event, and that is an obvious thing to track if we're tracking websites, and that's actually something you can't turn off. So at very, very least, the minimum you'll get out of Google Analytics 4 is page views, which is great. You get to track the page URL. They call that a page location. That's one of the parameters to this event, which I suppose is kind of an obvious thing we want to see, is how many pages were seen, but also on what pages they were seen. The next event down the list is the scroll event, and this sounds a bit ambiguous or a bit broad, but it's when a user reaches 90% depth of any page of your website. The reason it's chosen 90% is because it assumes there's going to be a footer at the bottom of a page. So if we assume that there's always going to be a footer, 90% could potentially mean, in most cases, or at least a lot of cases, that they have reached the bottom of the visible content at very least. The thing to note about this event, it's just called scroll, and it's only when someone reaches 90% depth of a page. But if you do have a very shallow page, it's going to log this scroll event immediately. If it's all above the fold, if you've got one screen, then that scroll event is going to log at the same time as the page view. So it could be kind of redundant on some pages. Another thing to consider is the device type, or more specifically, not just the device type, but the aspect ratio of the devices that people are using to view your website. Because quite often the pages are longer on mobile devices, where it's crammed all the content into a smaller resolution or screen. And especially if they're on a mobile device and looking at a landscape, then they've got a lot further to go. So in terms of the scroll depth percentage being 90%, that's great, and it's a really good event to have automatically. But what it can do is it can be quite misleading, or even just useless in some situations, without having this dimension of splitting it down by device type or screen resolution, or the idea of kind of like length, not just depth, can be really important here. But it doesn't capture that, it just captures the scroll depth at 90%. The next one down is outbound clicks, and this incorporates the event click. And again, this is possibly the most ambiguous one, or the most generically named one, just called click, because all sorts of things are clicks. I can click right now on this website, but it's not doing anything. A click in this context is when a user clicks a link that leaves the domain you're currently on. It's an outbound link click. So if I'm on website A.com and I click a link to website B.com, that is defined as an outbound link, and that will track the click event. Whereas if I used an internal link to go from website A to website A, the same website, it won't log this click event, even if it's a subdomain as well. If I go from www.websitea.com to bbb.websitea.com, then it's still going to not log a click event. It's only when you leave the domain, the root domain, that this will log, or at least attempt to. There are certain situations, very, very, very niche, where it won't do that, but the broadest way to think about it is when someone leaves the website. A good use case for this is especially around thinking of the social media links. So social links, when people click on links that leave your website to go to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, those kind of things, are really useful to understand when people are leaving but still engaging with the website. It's even useful for using third-party payment gateways. So if you've got a link off to a PayPal or SagePay or another kind of payment gateway that leaves your website and then redirects back, all of those links that leave your website to go to this payment gateway can give you a good indicator of, you can look at the total successes and the total clicks, and you can maybe work out a drop-off rate between the two. The next event down on this enhanced measurement list is site searches. This incorporates a single event called view search results. It's important to note here that this isn't tracking people making searches, it's views of the search results page. So there's no way within this event to understand how many searches were made, it's just views of the search result page. And I know it might sound like I'm nitpicking a little bit, but if you send a link to someone that takes them to a search results page, that will count as a view search results event, but they haven't technically made a search themselves. And if I do one search and keep refreshing the page, it's going to log this event over and over again. So detach the idea of it being number of searches made, but it's number of views of the search results page. And the way it identifies this, and this is possibly one of the events that is going to be a bit more likely out of all of them to not work out of the box, it identifies a search results page by using a query string parameter in the URL. So assuming your site search uses the query string, and assuming it puts the search term that they've inputted into the search box into the query string, then you'll be fine. It has a lot of defaulted query parameters it looks for. That's QS, search, query, and keyword. These cover a lot of the big CMSs like WordPress and Squarespace and things like that out of the box. But if you've got anything beyond that, or if you've got a custom search functionality on your website, then this may not work. You can configure it though. So if you go into this screen here, you can define the query string to look for. So yeah, it's a really good thing to have. One thing to note here is that often the search term that being used, so part of that query string that it's looking for, won't automatically be pulled through into the default report. So it's worth setting that up as a custom dimension as early as possible, so you can start pulling in the search term into your default reports in the reports workspace. The next one down is video engagement, and this incorporates 3 different events. We've got video start, video progress, and video complete. And I suppose they're kind of, in a sense, quite obvious what they're doing, or at least they do what they say on the tin. We've got a video start for when a video has been started. The progress looks at the 10, 25, 50, and 75% progressions of a video. And then we've got video complete is when someone gets to the end of a video. And when we say a video, we're talking specifically about embedded YouTube videos here, because it's a Google product, so it will only work with the Google video platform, YouTube. Not to say you can't custom implement some events if you're using Vimeo or a third party or another third party, but the default automatically collected events will be for YouTube. There are cases where that might not work. There's lots of resources out there if you're hitting that, but it's worth noting this is embedded YouTube videos, and you get a lot of information out of the box by users engaging with this. Some of this can be a really good indicator of users engaging with your content, even if they're not moving around page to page. They might stay on one page for a very long period of time and watch a video depending on how long the video is. It still kind of keeps that session alive by logging events. The next one down on the list is file downloads, and this incorporates just one event, which is file_download. And this is a subset of the outbound link click one, so the click event. This looks at when users click a outbound link click, or when they click an outbound link, but it has a file extension on there. So it doesn't matter what the website it goes to is, if it ends in .mp3 or .pdf or .docx, these are common file type extensions which will either open in a new tab in the browser to go view the document, or it will download it to the device. Either way, it counts as a download. It's not going to just look at the act of downloading as the download. Any link click that goes off to a file extension will be counted as a file download. So this can be really useful, especially for B2B, looking at lead generation. It doesn't always have to be form submissions or picking up the phone and calling in. But actually something like this, like downloading brochures, especially like travel agencies or destination resorts, these kind of things can be very useful to look at in terms of conversions actually, or at least meaningful events on the website. The list of all of the file extensions it incorporates is actually documented as well. I'm not going to read off them all. It's not going to be fun for you or me to listen to me do that, but I'll just link off to the documentation. You can read through that. But again, that should work. Think of it as an outbound link click, but with a file extension at the end of it. The next one down is actually the most recent one. So this is the one that Google has introduced most recently, and this is form interactions. And this incorporates two events. We've got our form submit and our form start events. And the form start event is defined as the first time a user interacts with a form. So as soon as they start typing into the first sort of typable element, that starts or that logs a form start. And then once a form has been successfully submitted, that is a form submit. Bear in mind with this that any form on your website might not technically be a form behind the scenes. So it looks for the form div elements. So if you're not sure what that is, then you can look in the page source code of your website or ask one of your developers. But they all need to be kind of like quote unquote proper forms on the website for it to automatically identify as a form. If you've got any very fancy forms or anything customly built, there might be incompatibilities or it might just not work automatically. For example, on the MeasureLab website, we've got a plugin to WordPress and this doesn't work for us, unfortunately. So we've had to do it ourselves using Google Tag Manager. A couple of things it tracks here are going to be really important for this. We're going to be things like form ID, form name, and obviously the page path. The page URL can be a really good indicator to determine which form it was that was logged or submitted or started. But what if you've got two different forms on the same page? And so this is where form IDs and form names can become really important. So making sure, with the developer again, like if you've got making sure that when they're implementing the forms on the websites that they all have form names, form IDs in the standard sort of HTML structure, then that will all be pulled through automatically and we'll be able to use it natively in the data. So that's going to be the really key thing there to make sure we can tell what form it is that's being started and submitted.